This is Cynthia, Mountain Accents. Today I am bringing a pattern review. This has been a long time coming. I started the Experimental Space Evelyn Blouse last year and became very frustrated while sewing it. And so I thought I would do a pattern review. When I first purchased this pattern, I got it from Pattern Pouch Nest as one of her pouches. And it came with the pattern. And it also came with some notions in a lovely pouch. So I really liked the detail of the design of the strip down the center, and I also like the little cutout in the sleeve that you can see here. And there is the line drawing. And with Experimental Space patterns, they do not come in a numerical size. They are named, so it's Ava through Mia. And that is a high bust of 31 inches to 55 inches, full bust of 33.5 inches to a 57.5 inch bust, waist 24.5 inch waist to a 48.5 inch waist, hips 31.5 to 55.5 inch. Fabric requirements is anywhere from 1.5 meters to 2.4 meters. Now I received this lovely, I think it's a Lady McElroy fabric. I received it from Andrea at Beyond the Pink Door in the Think Pink subscription box that came out for the month of May, her birthday month. I'm pretty sure it was her birthday month of last year. And it's a beautiful cotton lawn. Love the feel of it. And it's got this gorgeous lemon prints. And so I like the white background, and I love the lemons and the green. And I've got it paired with a pair of white shorts right now, but I would love to make like a green linen pair of shorts. Probably this darker green, even though it would still look good with this lighter green, but the darker green is more, suits me better. For this pattern, I went with the size Eve. So that is the 5th size up, which is a 39 inch high bust, which is really close to my high bust. Mine fluctuates 38 to 39. I am trying to lose a little weight, so right now mine's closer to 38. But at the time that I made this, or started it, my high bust was a 39 inch. Full bust 41.5 inch. And I think at the time that I started the pattern, my full bust was closer to 42.5. So her patterns are drafted for a B cup, or a 2 inch difference in the high bust and the full bust. And I tend to be 3 inches difference, or 3.5 inch difference, depending on how I'm carrying my weight. And so I have never done a full bust adjustment, but I opted to do one on this pattern because it did recommend that if you have a greater difference than 2 inches, that to do a full bust adjustment. And for the Eve, my waist measurement is greater than the recommended on here, but with the pattern Ease, and I'll have to look to see if I can find that finished waist or finished garment measurements. So the finished garment measurements for the waist is 44 inches for both the waist and the hips, so it's pretty, you know, like straight. And I felt like that would give me enough, especially once I did that adjustment. So I had to look up some tutorials on how to do a full bust adjustment, because I'd seen some for when there is a bust arch. Now this pattern does not have a bust arch, so I think I've showed this in one of my previous videos from last year. And where I have highlighted is where I have added extra And then, to be honest, I can't remember exactly how I did it, but I think I had to find where my apex would be here. And then you had to draw a diagonal here. And then you also draw a vertical line through your apex and a horizontal line through your apex. And then you separate, you cut your lines. And then, so that it looks like I have added a half of an inch. Again, since I did this last year, I don't remember exactly. And then of course you have to true up your sides and your ends. And so that brought this corner for under the arm out also the 1/2 inch. And then it came down to a 1/2 inch, and I graded, and because it was like a slightly curved hemline. I hope that makes sense, because you have to, like I said, add in your 1/2 inch here as well as here to get it to go over your bust, and to give you a little extra this way also. And I feel like that adjustment worked, and I am going to insert some photos or little video clip. I'll do photos and then a video clip also of me wearing this top. I just got through doing a little photo session. So how would I rate this pattern? So I consider myself now an intermediate beginner, or intermediate sewer, advanced beginner, and this is more an advanced pattern. And it was not that it was difficult. Her instructions are well written, but because I had never made an experimental space pattern, and I had never done like the detail like this has on the outside, or the little V sleeve, there was some techniques that I never had done. I have put in collars before, but now her collar construction is totally different from what I had previously done. And that's when I got frustrated, is when I went to attach the collar, and I laid it aside, and I just finished it last week. And so this is May of 2024, and I think I started this in the fall of 2023. So you have a front bodice and a back bodice piece. You also have this V detail, and you're cutting it out 2 times. You also have 2 collar pieces, and they're both interfaced with light interfacing. And you're cutting out 4 sleeves instead of 2 sleeves, because it is a lined sleeve. So when you begin by sewing your front detail, and so assembling the front detail, at first I couldn't, part of it seemed simple, but then when I read through it, I was getting confused. But part of it was because I wasn't breaking it down step by step. So I went back and I reread it, and I was like, it says like stay stitch along the front and back bodice necklines. So you do that first, and then you are placing your front detail right sides together, and you're pinning them along the outer edges, and you sew those, and then you turn them right side out after you trim and grade your seams. And then once you construct that, you're attaching it to your front bodice. And so once I got, you're attaching it on the opposite side because it has to turn out, and then you're top stitching this V, Now I used one of the washable markers to mark lines because it did give instructions to measure about 3 inches down to find your point, because you need that pivot point, and it's very important to mark that line to have your pivot point. I was a little nervous about putting that blue marker on this fabric but whether it was going to wash out, because I used quite a bit of blue marker before I got done with this, but it did wash out. And it had been sitting there for months and it still washed out, so that was a good thing. And last year I did actually film some of this step-by-step, and then after I got frustrated, I was like, I'm never going to put out this video. I deleted all of it, and I should have kept it because it would have been helpful for you. But with this pattern, I highly stress that you really follow the detail. If you're a beginner or even an advanced beginner or intermediate, I would follow it step by step. Now, someone who is more advanced may not have to read it as closely as I did, but I had to go back and read it, not just once, but I read it like 2 and 3 times on some of the steps to attach my front detail. And then when we get over here and you're working on the collar, now this is the part, like I said, I got frustrated on, is most of the garments that I have sewn before, you're creating your collar, and you might be like folding up one edge so that the part that folds inside, so that once you like you're sewing them together, you turn them right side out, you got that little edge so that once you attach it, then you go back and you sew it down to give you a clean finish on the inside. But she has you attach only 1/2 of the collar, so then you got this outer piece attached with your interfacing showing on the inside, and then she has you draw your seam line, your 5/8 inch seam line all the way around. And I did okay with doing the line around the back, but on this front pieces I was having trouble, but you have to like curve it. And then you're sewing, and this is the step I got to just look. So yeah, you're sewing your inside collar piece, which is also interfaced, to this, trimming it, and you sew. I've got a step ahead. Before you sew it on the part that's down here at the bottom, you sew like a basting stitch that you use to iron, to fold it up, so you'll know where your line is. So then once you attach it, you fold it in, and so that's neatly ironed. But she doesn't have you iron it until after it's attached, which really threw me, because I'm used to having my collar nicely pressed, ready to attach, and ready to just stitch this down. So if I ever make this top again, I will do the collar construction the way that I normally do it, and create the entire collar, and then attach it, and then stitch it down on the inside. And it looked, I did get a clean finish. I had trouble on one edge, and I can't even tell from the front which edge I had trouble with. But on the inside, it does not look as neat as the other side. But I didn't take it out, because the rest of it looks really great, and it's not noticeable when I'm wearing it. So it's just on the inside, and I know it's there. So then I moved on to sewing my side seams together, and then I started constructing the sleeve. Now, I was a little worried because, like, I've never done a full bust adjustment, and I kept my sleeve size the same, and I thought, well, did I need to add the extra 1/2 inch since I made all those adjustments? But I didn't, and it worked. But it is cut on the fold, so this part here at the top of the V is cut on a fold, and like I said, you're cutting 4 of those. And when I got to this sleeve, I decided not to follow her instructions because, well, let me just tell you, it was kind of like the same as the collar. It had you attaching one sleeve, your outer sleeve first to the top. So your top is turned right or inside out, so it's right sides together, and you're attaching that sleeve. And then you sew your inner sleeve in, attach it to that other sleeve, and it's supposed to have you grading your seams and then ironing it down, doing some top stitching, and I believe it also has you on the inside had a basting stitch line where you would iron it and sew it down and top stitch right here. Well, sewing in a sleeve can be tricky even when you're just having to concentrate on one sleeve. And I thought, well, if I get one sleeve in and I go to fold that other one in, I'm liable to get puckers or pinches, you know, in my fabric that I didn't want because of not being as experienced. So I opted to treat the sleeve as a whole piece. So I attached the facing, which is self-lined, and created the sleeve, and then I sewed in my sleeves and I overlocked that that one seam. Now everything else in this top is French seamed. The shoulder seams are French seamed, the side seams are French seamed, and I do like the way she has you doing the French seam because she has you sewing it with a very narrow seam before you turn it, whereas sometimes when some patterns it has you doing like maybe a 5/8 and then you're trimming it, and then you're turning again and then sewing again, and that you're wasting fabric. And so there's very little waste doing it this way, where it is like a 1/4 inch seam first when you were sewing your wrong sides together, and then you pressed that, turned it, and pressed it and sewed it at a 3/8. And that worked much better for creating a very nice French seam on the inside. So I also opted, well, I didn't top stitch this sleeve, but it was basically because I just forgot. I was thinking, oh yay, I'm finally done. And so I had all that blue ink where I had marked on the collar, and I marked my V points, and I used it on the sleeve to mark my V points, because you have to do the same thing, mark down like 3 inches so you have a pivot point, and you're clipping into that seam before you turn it out. And I was like, I'm gonna throw this in the wash, get all that blue ink out of it, make sure it came out. I never even thought about top stitching, but it has stayed where I pressed it, so I've decided I'm not going to top stitch it unless I have problems with it down the road. But I don't anticipate it having problems, but it's going to make a very cute summer top. And I have mixed feelings about this pattern. I still think the finished product is very adorable, and I love the little V on the sleeve, and it does I think suit the summertime. And even though it looks good with these white shorts that I'm wearing, I think it will look better with some green linen shorts. So hopefully I'll get some green linen soon to make some. But if you're wanting to challenge yourself, I highly recommend trying an Experimental Space pattern. I know that I've never tried any of her other patterns, but I know that a lot of them have little special details. It does have a very clean finish, so if you like the looking as good on the inside as it does on the outside, then that's a win also. I'm not in a hurry to try this pattern again, but I will try it again sometime down the road. And so yeah, I'd say challenge yourself someday when you're ready, and I'll give it, what, 4 out of 5? And if I was more advanced, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5 because it is a really cute top. I hope you've enjoyed this review. I know it's not been as thorough as I had hoped, but now I'm going to put in a little clip of me wearing it, and I'll talk to you soon. And if you haven't watched my 1,000 subscriber video, just go over and check that out. You have a few days to comment. I will be hosting a giveaway, and I hope you'll comment if you're interested in winning a gift voucher to Beyond the Pink Door fabric store. And I'll talk to you again later. Bye.